Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, folks, here we are on Tuesday, January 7th. We're going to take a look at ADTX today. So I actually jumped into ADTX. I had it on my radar, and I'll talk about why. Obviously, it's a highly speculative play. This, I'm going to try to scare you off before I give you the reason I jumped in. This is the monthly time frame and what the chart looks like. So pretty rough for ADTX bulls. So just be aware, if you're jumping into the stock, this is its history, dating back to 2020, or yeah, 2020. So here's where we are. In any case, here's where we are at the moment. You see this relatively recent low on 12/24 of 17.8 cents. Now, what got this on my radar was this jump in volume. You see this bump up in volume seemingly out of nowhere, right? You have a few blips, previous price action, and yep. But there's not very many periods where there's this block of sort of sudden and kind of consistently rising volume, especially when the price is being relatively stable. You know, this has been, granted, this was a minus 17% day, but that just sort of kicked off the increase in volume. Then it was a slightly green day, slightly red day, +4, -2, right? Nothing tremendous, slight greens, slight reds, for the most part, a little bit bigger, +6.67. -5.77. So it's like it gains the thing, then it loses the thing, being relatively sideways when it has this big jump in volume. And it really caught my eye as to, is there something that's kind of coming? And we see there's a very slight, I'm not going to leave this on the chart because I don't want to clutter it. There's this very slight uptick, trend line wise. And in terms of what ADTX is, it's a biotech company. You know, it gets pretty flimsy immediately, deploying health innovations. So not a super specific opening line, but that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it does talk about some of the the more detailed things as you get further into the paragraph here. But I mean, biotech companies are known, first of all, to have long-term charts that look like this, but then have periods where big news erupts, and hopefully not just big news that it's another reverse split, right? We have a few of those on this chart, one for 40, one for 40. But you know, the hope here is that there's big news on some development, some actual product, some sales, some partnership, something like that, that may have caught the trading proclivities of people in the know, right? That's sort of why I look for jumps in blocks of volume and the price moving relatively sideways. And this to me looks to be that. So what it means, I don't know. Could it also mean that nothing is going to happen? Sure. Could it also mean that it's going to plummet? Of course. That is so far, the long-term history of ADTX. But that's why I say it's a highly speculative play, but it's interesting. So I jumped in and calculated my risk and said, yeah, if this goes really against me, this is how much in I am. And just knowing what it is for what it is. Now, if we look at the EMAs here, this was the other thing that made it sort of interesting to me. This is really hard to see, but you know, these EMAs as they're currently situated, if you look up here while I sit here, the ATMA is at 20 cents. the 21 is at 27, and the 34 is all the way up at 72. Like I said, the price being such that it is, you can't perceive it here, so you just have to read it up there. So everything is currently still in a bearish formation. The short-term EMAs, the shortest of the terms, are the lowest level, and then 21's in the middle, and then 34, the longest of the short-term EMAs, is at the top. However, that does give it potential, I think, that if it does want to have some catalyst come through or something, and it jumps, just from a chart perspective, right? So taking out of it sort of what the catalyst is or why it's moving, whatever, just from a chart perspective, I would expect it to jump through the 8 on a catalyst. That's, a penny, but then to move toward the 21. And listen, it sounds like nothing, right? Moving from 19 cents to 27 cents, but that's a huge percentage gain. So if for the capital you put in, that's why I think it could be interesting. If there is then any motion toward the 34, that being all the way up in the 70s, I mean, you're talking about more than 3x the money. So it's pretty interesting. It's not my typical play, being that the EMAs are in a fully bearish formation, but it's so interesting that it's a biotech stock, and it's very interesting to me that this block of volume has come in, and it has crept up a little bit, right? We drew the trend line, but it hasn't done anything that sort of feels like that the price movement is out of alignment, it feels, with the jump in volume. You look at the relative volume here, and I mean, see periods of jumping here, right? But the price was moving quite significantly through this period of time, right? This was a plus 29% day, after a plus 10% day, right? This day up here, this was a plus 45% day, and then a minus almost 19% day. So, there are periods, but not sort of this block, right? You see a spike. This is probably the closest, but even that, to me, looks like it pales in comparison to this. Now, additionally, TTM squeeze indicator has now put in a lengthy trigger, right? You see all this trigger period. This trigger kicked off about, let's see if I align this right. I think it kicked off October 25th of 2024. And then it fired, I believe, on December 20th, right? So we're a couple, maybe going on 3-ish weeks of firing, and you see the volume picking up. You see that those EMAs laid out as we mentioned, lengthy trigger, fire, sort of abnormal bump in volume while the price is staying relatively flat. I don't know. Call it the conspiracy theorist in me. Could well be, but it is seemingly like pretty interesting to me as to what could be happening here. And like I said, what could be happening is we get a plummet, right? Or some notice of delisting, or something really negative. That could certainly be the case. But what we see in here, is pretty mundane news. I mean, these aren't headlines. This is just trying to get you to click, right? But it's just what happened stuff. Talking about a subsidiary successfully completing preclinical efficacy. So, yeah, I'm really curious if there's something that's come up. Maybe there's something that's more public than I even realize. I really just base this off of the volume, the EMAs, and the TTM squeeze indicator. That was enough for me to say, okay, this will be my speculative play of the moment. I don't mind having one of those sort of in play periodically. I don't want a stack of them in play all at once, but this one seemed really interesting to me. So we'll see. But yeah, if you know of something more apparent or more public, more well-known, more talked about in the dark corners of the internet, feel free to put it in the comments. But that wasn't my focus on this, was trying to figure out, oh, is there something known about what's happening? Because unless it's sort of publicly released by the company, I also consider that as being really speculative too, right? It's sort of like whisperings of things that are happening. But this has me, actually, I hadn't looked. Okay. I was wondering also about where do they put in here? Insider activity. Yeah, nothing. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. But we'll see. But I just wanted to put it out there. That's why I jumped in. I don't know if other folks are in. I would presume so. But I'd be curious to know why folks are running into it. And especially if you were sort of like consumers in this period of time, what was it? Is there some retail buzz about it? Is there something else? I don't know. But yeah, that's my take on it, but still some curiosity out there as to what in the world is happening. But we'll see. We'll know soon enough, I suppose, what is going to come of old ADTX. All right, folks, so I hope that your trading week is off to a good start. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.